You ever wonder if we inherit our parents' anxieties? You know, their insecurities, their unspoken pain. Well, today we're diving deep into that very idea, this concept of transmitted emotional patterns. And we're going to do it through the powerful lens of Ingmar Bergman's classic film, Autumn Sonata.
And to really set the stage, let's start with this incredible thought from psychoanalyst Carl Jung. It points to this timeless, almost invisible connection, a kind of psychological lineage that stretches through generations. And honestly, that connection is exactly what we're going to be unpacking today. So, our story and our investigation kicks off with a reunion that is, well, anything but happy. It's a scene just packed with 7 years of unspoken feelings, and it sets up the central mystery we're exploring.
So let's meet our two women. On one side, you've got Charlotte, a world-famous concert pianist who just lives for the stage. And on the other, there's her daughter, Eva, who's lived this very quiet life, pretty much always in her mother's shadow. And after 7 long years, they're finally in the same room again.
And it doesn't take long for the whole thing to just crumble. This quote from Eva, it cuts right to the absolute heart of their conflict. See, it's not about simple dislike. It's about a love that's so tangled up with resentment that it's morphed into this deep, all-consuming anxiety.
Which really makes you wonder, right? How does a bond that's supposed to be the purest one we have become a source of so much suffering? To answer that, we've got to look way deeper, beyond just what they're saying to each other.
Okay, so let's bring in our toolkit for this. We're going to use a few key ideas from Jungian psychoanalysis, pulled from our source paper, to really decode the emotional storm that's brewing between them.
First up is something called the mother complex. Now, this isn't just about your relationship with your actual mom. It's about this powerful internal image of mother that lives inside all of our unconscious minds. It's this archetype that shapes who we are. It can show up as a deep need for safety and care, or on the flip side, as a fear of being completely controlled. It's kind of like an inner voice that can either build you up or hold you back.
Next, we've got the anima and animus. So, Jung's theory was that every single one of us carries an unconscious, sort of opposite-gendered element inside. The animus is the unconscious masculine side of a woman, and the anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man. You can think of it like an inner blueprint for the other gender that really influences our relationships and how we see the world.
And you can see the contrast so clearly here. The anima is linked to eros, the connective, emotional, feeling part of our psyche. The animus, on the other hand, is tied to logos, the rational, logical, reason-driven part. Now, a healthy personality finds a way to integrate both, but when these two forces are wildly out of balance, like they are for our characters, well, that creates a huge inner conflict that just spills out into every single relationship.
All right, we've got our psychoanalytic tools. Let's put them to work and apply them directly to Charlotte and Eva. This is where we really start to see the hidden source of their painful conflict.
Let's start with the mother, Charlotte. When you look at her through this lens, you see a personality completely driven by that masculine principle, the animus. Her whole identity is built around logos, around logic and reason. And you can see it in everything she does, right? Her ambition, her career, that's everything to her. She values intellect and completely dismisses emotion as just, sentimentality. She's hypercritical, always needs to dominate the situation and the people around her, probably without even realizing it. It's all about projecting strength to hide her own vulnerability.
Now, let's flip over to her daughter, Eva, who is the total and complete opposite. Her personality is just overwhelmed by the feminine principle, eros, while her animus, her sense of logic, of action, of her own separate identity, is just deeply underdeveloped.
Eva is passive, often just paralyzed by her own feelings. She's incredibly empathetic and spiritual, but she has no firm sense of who she is outside of a relationship with her mother. She's always searching for that motherly care that Charlotte could never, ever give her. And because of that, she's kind of stuck as a child, living completely in her mother's shadow.
This scene at the piano, it is absolutely pivotal. When Charlotte criticizes Eva's playing, she's not really talking about music. She is laying out her entire life philosophy. To her, emotion is pain, and pain must be hidden. Life demands constant, complete restraint. It's an art form she has perfected, and she expects the exact same thing from her daughter.
And all of this brings us to our final section, where we're going to tie all these threads together to reveal the core idea of our source material, this tragic cycle of inherited pain.
This is the devastating realization that Eva comes to in the film. The emotional wounds, the insecurities, the failures of one generation, they don't just vanish. They get passed down, unconsciously, almost as if through an umbilical cord that was never, ever cut.
And the most haunting symbol of this entire idea is Helena, the younger daughter who has a severe physical disability. The paper we're looking at argues she's the living embodiment of this cyclical trauma, a physical manifestation of the family's stunted emotional growth and all that transmitted pain.
And this leaves us with a final, really powerful question. The film itself ends on an ambiguous note, but the psychological pattern it shows us is crystal clear. If this invisible cord is connecting one generation to the next, what does it truly take to finally break the cycle?